What's up guys, how's it going? Today we're going to talk about the top 10 creative choices in the Super Mario Bros. Movie. I know, like plenty of you, I've been waiting my entire life for a movie like this. And I can't wait to talk about it. We had to handle the film a bit differently than gameplay though. And I also came up with a little custom frame as well, using cartridges from the Mario games on the wall. Of course, thanks for watching. What's up guys, how's it going? Today we're talking about my top 10 favorite creative choices in the Super Mario Bros. Movie. The Super Mario Bros. Movie did a whole lot of things right. The movie was incredibly well paced, pelting you with witty, self-aware humor, and incredibly satisfying action. When it wasn't treating you with scenes even more meaningful. There were a lot of brilliant choices that have resulted in this movie already becoming one of the most successful films in history. As a fan, going into a movie like this, it makes you nervous and possibly conflicted. Of course you don't want it to feel like the directors aren't well versed in the material, but at the same time, you want it to be structured properly to not completely alienate non-gamers, leaving them clueless in the dust. Naturally, you want the movie to be successful. That's the only way we're going to see more of them. It's just really hard to please everybody. But somehow Nintendo and Illumination Studios managed to completely cater to both kinds of viewers. This is possibly the most impressive handling of a hot potato that I've ever seen. In fact, it was like watching a tightrope walker juggling them. When you consider the amount of talent involved with this movie, this is no coincidence and it's no fluke. Numerous creative decisions were made to help set up the widest possible funnel for the most people to enjoy this movie, with the Super Mario Bros. Movie becoming part of an elite group to clear over $1 billion in the box office. And keep in mind, this is during the streaming era and after COVID, making it even more impressive. What were your favorite moments in the movie? Without further delay, here are the top 10 creative choices made in the Super Mario Bros. Movie. Number 10. Establishing Mario's roots. The movie does a stellar job at bridging the gap between lifelong Mario fans and those that know nothing about him. How could they possibly do that? By starting the Mario Bros. Movie in Brooklyn, New York. This gives the viewers a real chance to learn about our main characters, seeing them through a more realistic lens, observing their day-to-day life. We get to see the way the brothers joke around and support each other, and they're even made somewhat relatable since they're just out here working, trying to make it like the rest of us. We even get to see Mario's family, the group responsible for his thick skin. They're a loving yet pretty tough crowd that does their fair share of ribbing. We hear some really tough words from Mario's father after Mario asks him what he thinks of Mario and Luigi starting their own business. As a gamer, Mario's father is a character we've never even learned about before, but seems to be modeled after this Ocarina of Time character that you find early in the game, asleep blocking your path. It's made pretty clear how much father's approval matters to Mario, but his dad makes it clear that he doesn't have it. This is classic storytelling, by the way. It plants the seed that Mario and Luigi are unlikely heroes, and if they were to amount to anything, it would be to the surprise of their family and their peers. There are a lot of excellent and memorable moments in New York, such as when the brothers' truck won't start, and it results in them overcoming this obstacle by cutting through the alley with this classic two-dimensional view, just like in the games, complete with the flagpole reference. Showing Mario and Luigi's family roots and establishing them as these two persistent brothers just trying to make it appeals to a much wider audience than just starting things off like, bang, you're in the Mario world immediately and only fans could know what's going on. And speaking of roots, for bonus points, they even managed to tie in the original Mario Bros. Show theme song into their business ad. All of the roots established in New York were essential to making this a legitimate film structurally, so it only makes sense that it has to start the list. Number 9. The original Mario voice actor cameo. Charles Martinet with the old school looking Mario. One of the initial concerns that got a lot of buzz from Mario fans was having Chris Pratt voice Mario. By including this cameo, ultimately what the people making the movie were saying here was that this is a conscious decision. It's not a question of whether or not they could get Charles Martinet, because look, he's right here. But instead they went another route with a more neutral voice that had more range to avoid the possibility that Mario's overly enthusiastic voice over an entire movie might get stale, hard to believe, and if we're being realistic, perhaps a bit obnoxious, at least for some viewers. With that being said, they seemed to somehow strike a perfect balance with certain lines that made it unmistakable that you were listening to the Super Mario Bros., but wasn't overly done in the slightest. It was really smart that they had a character that resembled the original Mario with the red overalls and blue shirt, spouting lines from the original voice actor of Mario. These first two on the list were incredibly self-aware choices, which is what the movie makes a habit of doing. They managed to hook a casual viewer onto characters you want to root for, and also find a voice that wouldn't grate on any ears, while paying the fan service of treating us to the Charles Martinet cameo with the original Mario design. As the expression goes, you can't please everyone, but they certainly did their best. Number 8. The sound effects. If these weren't handled with care, they had the potential to come off as generic to the fans or seem unfitting and annoying to the other viewers. They did an amazing job sneaking so many of these recognizable sound effects in, layered into more realistic sound effects, like the Super Mario Bros. 3 building up P-meter speed, as well as the sliding sound from holding the other direction to turn around. These handful of moments that had those little sound clips are bound to bring a smile to a fan's face that recognized them, but they weren't blared out uncontested to seem strange to unfamiliar viewers. Another one of my favorites is the unmistakable Super Mario World thunder sound effect from the final world outside of Bowser's castle. And these several moments with these familiar sounds was one of my favorite creative choices throughout, so it's number 8 on the list. Number 7. The depiction of Mario Kart. Whether or not you played Mario Kart, this part was made universally rad. How? Well, speaking of sound design, the licensed music in this movie is unbelievable. Thunderstruck by AC/DC as Mario and his pals cycle through picking their karts in a reminiscent way to the DS and onward was made incredibly cool by the characters working on the vehicles themselves. Just look at these guys and their machinery. The way this is all put together feels seamless, and it brings the kart selection to life in a way that fans and non-fans can look at and agree, yeah, this is pretty awesome. Not to mention, the way a couple of these iconic items are depicted is fantastic. Whether you know about the game or not, the Kong security throwing the banana over his shoulder is funny. Slipping on a banana peel is a classic gag, but in particular, the way Mario is animated as if he's learning what to do. This whole Rainbow Road sequence is full of amazing action, but I really liked how they handled Mario throwing a shell. The animation and facial expressions are so good, it adds a real element of chaos and scrappiness to the whole clash with the ambush of Bowser's army. Having Mario throw a shell like this was a lot better than him just whipping it back like he would in the game. He obtains the shell after stomping on a Koopa, and I really liked his animation and facial expression as he's figuring out what to do with it to make a shot count. Number 6. Luigi's Mansion references. The way they managed to keep paying homage to die-hard fans while simultaneously having things make sense within the context of their movie was something so special. When Mario and Luigi are floating through a strange part of the universe at the beginning of the adventure, they get separated, with Mario heading toward the Mushroom Kingdom, but Luigi isn't so lucky. Luigi lands in the dark wooded forest, unknowingly near Bowser's Keep. When you first see those spooky trees, you may feel the tie immediately, but also wonder if they're gonna slam the reference home, and that's when Luigi picks up his flashlight to call for his brother, just as he does when you press A in Luigi's Mansion.
Mario? Mario? Where are you?
This whole part is exciting, with him running away from the dry bones, barely managing to escape. He starts to regain himself to breathe a sigh of relief, just to be stunned with another shocking character inclusion that was a surprise to see whether you're a Mario player or not. Number 5. Jack Black as Bowser. This has got to be the most hilarious and surprisingly perfect voice cast that this world has ever seen. Jack Black's wild and fun personality helped mold this evil monster into one of the most enjoyable things to watch throughout the film. The way this movie makes fun of itself and its characters will leave your face sore and your gut aching from the non-stop laughter. Bowser had several funny moments, but I'd be remiss and scorned if I didn't mention the almighty and infamous Peach's song that Jack Black took the time to write on his own. The fact that this degree of silliness was allowed by Nintendo, given how conservative and protective they can be, may leave one in disbelief, but the end result is without exaggeration one of the most memorable and most glorious villain performances of all time. Number 4. Donkey Kong's grand entrance. The Great Ape's appearance was highly anticipated, and they pulled this off beyond perfectly. On top of its epicness that stands on its own 2 feet for any viewer, only some gamers old enough would immediately recognize the DK rap chant from Donkey Kong 64. The exchange of Donkey Kong with Cranky Kong as he's showboating, it's straight up hilarious, not to mention all the monkey cameos in the audience. To your average viewer, it looks like a diverse cast of primates, but to the players, there are familiar faces in the crowd. We all know that this is Diddy Kong and Dixie Kong from the Donkey Kong Country games on the Super Nintendo. We also get to see Chunky Kong from Donkey Kong 64. This is another brilliant example of how to make something insanely exciting and hype for casual viewers while managing to pay unbelievable fan service at the same time. Number 3. Peach grabbing her dress while running. It sounds odd, but I'm not sure I've ever seen something quite as expressive and cool as the way Peach runs through this obstacle course while touting her princess attire.
If you can finish this, you're coming with me. Watch and learn.
If you've ever seen super old footage of how girls played back in the day, in the black and white era, they grabbed their dresses to not trip, as if it was part of them, in a way that says, this isn't going to hold me back. The way the music works together as Peach shows Mario the ropes with her obstacle course is enough to bring a tear to your eye. They had no business making this so beautiful, but that's what they did, and like a lot of Mario fans, I was a bit surprised to see Peach's abilities, but at the same time, it made sense to me. It's 2023 and we've seen how Peach moves. She's been involved in sports and fighting games for a long time, but aside from those, how about in Super Mario Bros. 2 back in 1988? She was one of the 4 playable characters. She's not to be considered a complete joke. That's what the movie made clear. Like anybody else, she sometimes needs help, that's what teamwork is for, but she's not just confined to being a helpless princess. And the way she built up speed, clutching her dress while owning the course at the same time, is the perfect embodiment of that. And that's why it's number 3 on the list. Mario's hands flipping out while running. It's no surprise that watching Mario's acrobatics through the film is a real point of joy, especially when it's his turn to learn how to get through the obstacle course, accompanied by I Need a Hero. It's one of the funniest and best parts of the movie. There are several times where we see Mario getting active running in the movie, but only a couple times when he appears to reach his top speed. Longtime Mario players know exactly what happens when you reach your top speed. First seen in 2 of his most iconic adventures, Super Mario Bros. 3 on the NES and Super Mario World on the Super Nintendo. It's also reminiscent of how he runs with invincibility in some of his more modern titles, such as Mario Galaxy for example. The fact that they animated this and had him do it at all speaks to the level of fandom and loyalty to the source material that these writers had. Even if you weren't a Mario player, when you saw these moments of arm-hand extension, it's a universally hilarious thing. Whenever a character does it, it's funny. So when these little hands come out a few times over the movie, I not only laughed, but shed tears of joy because in that moment, nothing seemed more beautiful, although the movie has a way of making you feel that multiple times to be fair. So here we are at number 1. What was the biggest standout amongst the creative choices? Number 1. Luma Lee, trapped in the prison. What exactly is this character doing here?
Where am I?
Home.
Sure, you may have seen him in Mario Galaxy, but does he behave anything like you could possibly imagine in the Mario universe?
Insane world. It is the same, but it's called crazy.
How long you guys been in here?
Time, like hope, is an illusion.
Please, we are depressed enough.
There's gotta be a way out of here.
There's no escape. The only hope is the sweet relief of death.
You've got to be kidding me.
Talk about comedic relief using dark humor. Luma Lee is somehow executed in a way that's funny, but explicitly romanticizes death. Luma Lee in the prison of hanging cages has to come in at number 1 because I know, like a lot of people out there, I left the movie theater with my brain completely buzzing with everything I just saw, but this creative choice above everything else was the most surprising, and as a result you could argue as the most memorable thing from the movie. It just stands out. The purity and the honest emotion from this Luma star, trapped, unable to live free, leaning into his sadness and wishing for death, these sound like quotes that originated in the darkest form of philosophy, and yet Nintendo, Miyamoto, they allowed this. It's not just this character though. Luma Lee shows us a bigger picture. What this little Luma showed us is that, if presented right, nothing is off limits. After seeing this guy, there's truly no telling how deep they will go on any of their future movies. The movie contains so much self-degradation, it followed a classic story arc, and managed to perfectly walk the tightrope between alienating new viewers while somehow completely satisfying fans with its surplus of cameos, details, and brilliant creative choices. Bottom line, the critics are lying through their teeth. They're either way too biased and loyal to Disney, and or so terrible at Mario games to the point where they wouldn't know a great film even when they see one. This movie was made for the big screen. See it before it's too late. It's 92 minutes of your life that you will not want back. Just want to thank you so much for watching, guys. If you're in the mood for more top 10s and more gaming content, be sure to check out the channel, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.